Live again, live and in color. Oh my gosh. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is for you, wherever you are in this great big world. I just got off the Static Planet. I was riding around, had a big chug of some apple cider vinegar. I took a double cold shower because, oh my God, I needed to be awake for this show. What a crazy couple we got coming on today. I'm excited to get them on board. I think we got a couple announcements. Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Oh my God, who am I here? Who am I? My name is Michael John. I'm Michael John from Michael John Paranormal Ghost Stories. My co-ghost host to the opposite side of me. That's how we handle that, so we figure out what way the camera goes. The man of the hour, the man of the power, too sweet. Too sweet to be sour. His name, of course, is Dale High Spirits Quigley. Together we are the voice of the paranormal, the voice for the paranormal, Windsor, Ontario's own, the paranormal voice. We are right across from Detroit, Michigan. We are the border city, Windsor, Ontario. It is 8:06 p.m. Eastern time, and we are live on Facebook podcast as well as our YouTube channel. Those that are watching, if you haven't seen or been to our YouTube channel, I should say, please go over there and subscribe. Tell a buddy, bring a friend, get grandmama out of bed, and follow the family dog, plant everybody's butt in front of that TV screen right now, computer screen, phone screen, whatever screen. I scream. We all scream for vodka screen. That makes sense? I don't know. Anyways, Dale, we got a few things. Wait a minute. Before we even get to announcements, let's do announcements, and then let's talk about what you did last night.
Absolutely, buddy.
No,
I mean, yeah,
it's
we are just on the heels, the heels of one of the greatest events, the WrestleMania Paracon. The Maya Paracon, August 24th, 25th, and 26th is just around the corner, folks. We cannot wait to get on the road, get up to the UP, and join our friends and family, all the people we love to be around. They are going to be there. So, folks, if you've not already had the opportunity to get your tickets, get your room, get your party pass, because it is going to be 3 days of absolute sheer fun in the sun. You know, we're going to be inside the casino. It's still going to be fun in the sun. I just want to acknowledge some people that are happening on the side. Yes, we've got from the Get Haunted, we have Mr. Rob Stakowitz and the lovely Miss Sarah V. We love you guys. Thank you for joining in. And over here on, like I said, it's been crazy, but Michael John, you were on the Nona Boss Continuum this morning. That was an awesome show, brother. Awesome show. I was glad I tuned in to that. So those who did not see it, go over to the Nona Boss YouTube channel. Check it out. Michael John, one half the Paranormal Voice, was on there telling his story. He had us laughing. He had us crying. Wow. Dude, I know your journey, but I love hearing about it all the time.
You know what? And it was really great to be on. That was talk about opportunities. I mean, we get to do what we love, and that's this right here, because of all the great TPV Nation fans, because of the great guests we get. And that's a list from A to Z. And I mean, people are popping up out of the woodwork right now. I see the Get Haunted Network. I see Brandy and Blondes and Booze. I see Sarah Jane Villani. It reads like the who's who. Those are the only names I can see. But I see there's a lot more people viewing. So thank you to everybody tuning in right now. Yes, the Nona Boss was so, oh my God. We had her on, and she was fantastic. She's like us, talk about anything and everything from A to Z, and that's pretty much what we did today on the Nona Boss show. And Dale, you're going to be on in a week or two as well. She can't get enough of us. Thankfully, I think she's crazy, but she should, as Tim Shaw always says, she should aim higher. Oh my God, but that's okay. That's something to be proud of for sure. To get out there and share my own personal stories, my own personal experiences, even show some photos and a little bit of video, to kind of say, hey, this is kind of what's going on in my paranormal life as well. But yeah, and you're wearing what's that T-shirt you're wearing? What is that? What is that? Get Haunted? Tell us about Get Haunted.
I finally got my hands on one of the Get Haunted T-shirts. I'm telling you, I'm wearing this with so much pride today because I'll tell you, brother, I got Haunted last night. That's right. I was at one of their official events, and now I'm officially Got Haunted. So I'll tell you, it is.
Where were you?
We were up at the Palmyra Historical Museum in Palmyra, New York. And I'll tell you, this place here is absolutely amazing. But what I want to say most of all, even Suri's excited I was there. She wants to get in on the camera. What I got to say, you know what? We've been talking with Rob and Sarah for so long. They've been on our show. We follow them, all the great adventures that they're doing. I'll tell you,
yeah,
the passion that these guys put into their events is mind-blowing. It is something. So, folks, I will tell you right now, get on your computer, get over to gethaunted.com, find the nearest location to you, or find one of their locations. They've got some amazing events coming up. But I'll tell you, the event planning that goes into this and the execution of everything, it was so well put on. Like I tell you, I love the paranormal. We are the paranormal voice. We love talking about the paranormal. Now, my passion for the paranormal has kind of dived down a little bit because you know what? So much crap is in the world going on. People talking, whatever. But last night I walked away with there, and I'll tell you, it was a great event. But most of all, I got to bond with my oldest son. My oldest son, Colby, came with me on this. It was his very first big paranormal investigation. And I'll tell you, we did not get disappointed. It was an amazing event. Kyle, Brandy, Bree, and Terry were the three members of Get Haunted. Were there absolutely amazing. Yeah, Kyle, who was going to be on our show August 29th. He was there, and I'll tell you, it was an awesome experience. They did an experiment last night that was absolutely mind-blowing. I will tell you, they did the Estes method at 3 different locations across the United States. I believe it was in Palmyra, New York, Connecticut, and I want to say Pennsylvania.
Wow.
If I'm wrong, Rob will correct me in a few seconds. But I'll tell you, they did the Estes method live on the Get Haunted YouTube channel. Folks, go check it out. See what happened. And I believe it was, he corrected me. It was New Jersey. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate that. But yeah, no, it was absolutely amazing. And my son actually participated in it. And he got mind blown. His mind was blown. He had quite a moment. So yeah, I'm very proud of him. But I'll tell you, Rob and Sarah and the whole Get Haunted team, wow, what an amazing company. Like I said, get to one of their events, gethaunted.com. Check these guys out. You will walk away with an experience like no other. And I'll tell you, I'm already itching to go back to another event. So I just got to find the location. But yeah, no. So Sarah, Rob, if you're still watching, thank you guys. The experience was absolutely amazing. You guys are the best. And I will not. You now got a new fanboy. I've always been a fan of Get Haunted, but now I'm next level. I'm like the gold or what is it, platinum status of Get Haunted.
I love it.
But I don't want to waste any more time because our 2 guests that are coming up. We met Chris last year, wasn't it? We met Chris at the Mid Michigan Paracon.
Correct.
I think it was. Yes.
That's absolutely
so
right.
Yeah, no, I don't want to waste any more times. So yeah, let's what do you got to say about these folks that were coming on? So
Well,
I'm all over the place. I'm just trying not to break down and cry because I tell you the experience that I had last night was overwhelming, and it brought something back into me. Is why I love the paranormal, and I just got to say once again, Rob and Sarah, thank you for bringing that back. It meant a lot.
so did you get any sleep?
Dude, no, I'm still on a freaking high. I was just yeah, I'm still on a high.
All right. Well, and you know what? I think that's fantastic. And Colby did, from what you guys told me, had quite a unique experience. I heard Kyle Mangus was, a cut above the rest, if you will, and a man among men when it comes to the paranormal. Definitely a gentleman, and accommodated you, as well as the rest of the Get Haunted crew that were there with him. And I'm excited to have him on August the 29th, right here live with us. Yes, the 24th, 25th, and 26th, we will be at the My Paracon. For ticket information, hotel information, that's www.myparacon.com. Now, let's get to brass tacks, as they say, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get to the 11th hour. Let's get to the main event. This couple here, they've been together 3 years as a team only. The combination of the two of them, they got about 40 years experience investigating, experience in the paranormal. Again, 40 years together combined. That's who I'm talking about is, of course, Chris Nielson, Kelly McCarville of Travelers Moon Paranormal. Open the curtains, get them in here right now.
Can you just do that every time we walk in a room?
Absolutely.
That was a fantastic introduction. Dale's still a little para-high. I'm excited for tonight. It's gonna be a fun night.
Yeah. He will definitely he will definitely record that, and we will put that on the boombox every room you guys go into.
I like it.
And boom, here comes the Traveler Moon
coming down the aisle.
The room strutting, yeah.
Absolutely. You got to be unique, man, for sure. So, but most importantly, thank you so much for taking time for us tonight. We can't do what we do and what we love to do without getting great guests like yourself. And I know it's going to be, as I like to say, a ring a ding dong dandy of a show. So let's get going, Dale.
Absolutely, Chris, Kelly. It's great to see you guys again. Chris, we met you just about a year. Oh no, not quite a year. It was back in November of last year at the Mid Michigan Paracon. You know what? Chris was one of those guys when you walk by him, there's just his energy. You just want to stop and talk to him because he was so unique, and but his story is equally amazing. But it's just one of those. It was just, you had to talk to him. You couldn't walk by him without saying hi to him because he just had that kind of energy. So I was glad that we got to meet you, Chris. Kelly, it's been quite the pleasure getting to know you as well. We got to spend some time together earlier this year, up in Petoskey, Michigan.
Yeah, Little Traverse.
Petoskey, yeah.
Petoskey.
I think it's Petoskey.
Little Traverse Bay.
So we had been saying it Petoskey for the longest time prior, and we had a Starbucks barista almost get kind of a little feisty about it. Because we're in the middle of nowhere, Michigan, and we're like, she's like, where are you heading? We're like, oh, we're heading up to Petoskey. She means, oh, you mean Petoskey? Oh, have we been saying it wrong? That's so funny. And then she managed to find a way to incorporate the word Petoskey
into almost every sentence.
Every other sentence at least. Just to make sure.
Okay, we got it. We were saying it wrong.
And I remember,
it's fine.
Chris, I remember you fondly, of course. Well, okay, so the first Paracon we were really fortunate to do was the My Paracon last year. Pardon me, excuse me. That's where we got to cut our teeth. And I mentioned this to you at the Mid Michigan. You talked to a bazillion people that day. I'm sure you don't remember the conversation, but I said I remember you because you wore a kilt at My Paracon.
No, that's correct. Yeah.
What a way to stand out. You should investigate in that kilt.
I have
a couple times.
A couple of times. And it's becoming one of those weird things where it's becoming expected of me now. Like, people I don't recognize are like, where's the kilt if I happen to be wearing pants?
Yeah,
you're letting people down.
I'm letting people down, but on the other hand, I feel like it's turning into a thing, and I don't know if I want to be the guy with the thing.
Although he continues to collect more and more kilts, so I don't know that he's 100% opposed to it.
So are you Scottish?
I am.
Okay. Irish too?
Yes, a little bit.
I love it. I think it's a unique idea. Why not?
Yeah.
I like it.
One man's opinion.
I was gonna say, and a lot of women's they would turn out.
Oh yeah, he gets very, very popular when he's in the kilt. Like
he's in great shape.
Yeah, we kind of didn't mean to play with that one day, but like one day he started out the event in jeans, and like shortly after it started, he went out and he changed because we were all set up and ready to go. And all of a sudden, the women start flocking to the table, and it's like, so it's all right. I just stand back and watch.
What you got, man?
Yeah.
Well,
bottom line.
Now I know how to get my next girlfriend. I'm gonna go buy a kilt.
No one wants to see your legs.
There is something about a guy in a kilt. I'll just say.
Oh no, that you know what, and that's absolutely amazing. That's unique. That's different. And you know what, in the paranormal world, unique and different is definitely what makes people stand out. So, I mean, I could see the next time we see Chris at his booth, he'll be selling Traveler Moon kilts with the logo on the kilt.
Oh, you could get like a Traveler's Moon tartan. It'd be great.
That's the thing.
Still have a little tartan pin.
Yeah.
There
Never
we go.
Say never.
Onto something here.
Well, if you guys want to get to that point, talk to Rob over at Get Haunted. He's a really good merch guy. I'm sure he can hook you guys up with that. But no, so let's find out where the passion came from. Where did your guys' paranormal passion start?
So mine kind of started before I even knew that it was starting. I had some abilities when I was a little girl, didn't know that I had anything. At about 10 years old, we moved into a house that we were not the only residents that lived there. And we started learning how to live with our invisible roommates and just, get used to the noises and get used to the sounds and the little shadows that would walk through the house. And eventually you get to a point where you start experiencing that enough that you want to know what it is. What is this that keeps happening in my house? Why does this keep happening in my house? And I was young enough. There was still a little bit of that aspect of, is it something that I should be scared of? I wasn't very scared of it. I was coming into being able to understand my abilities better to know that it wasn't dangerous, but it was still uncomfortable, definitely at times, to hear someone walk down the hallway as you're trying to sleep. But I was just lucky enough to be raised by a parent that was into the paranormal as well. And so she would help support that. We started out like everybody else, as a teenager, going out trying to scare ourselves at cemeteries. And, late teens, early 20s, I just started really wanting to know more about what it is, why they're here. Is there something they need? Is there something I can help with? So that's kind of where mine started.
Yeah, and for me it was a very similar. It teeters on cliche anymore. Yeah. Like most paranormal investigations, like running to I grew up in a haunted house. So backstory very much the same. The one of the houses I grew up in. So my grandparents played a huge part in raising me, and to this day, their house is probably one of the most active places I've ever been. And I don't know if it's just specifically because of the history of the house, although there is a lot. So the place was a temporary funeral home. It was the parsonage for the church next door. The basement worked as the morgue for the funeral home. There's obviously no documentation on anything like this, but there are town legends. It was part of the Underground Railroad. And there are aspects of the house, particularly like hidey holes, like especially in the basement, secret trap doors that lead to the idea that maybe that's true. But like Kelly had mentioned, it was, getting to know our invisible roommates. Yeah. So I didn't grow up in a situation where it was like, oh shit, we have the ghosts. It was, just they were people who lived in the house too. We just couldn't see them all the time.
Okay.
We just kind of knew this. You couldn't take the dogs through this doorway. They get weirded out. You got to take them through a back room. Grandma would scold there was a particular spirit, a little boy who I found out later, his name was Greg. She would scold him the same way she would scold my brother. She would just she had this beautiful antiqued dark blue Persian rug. And she said there was one day she was vacuuming, she put the vacuum away, came back around, and there's these little footprints. And instead of that panic, I think some people might have gotten, her exact words were, "Damn it, stop messing up my carpet." Yeah. So, they were just a extension of the family. And that was the environment I grew up in. Fast forward quite a few years, I got into like the actual research aspect. I think I was 15 or 16. My local library was doing like a book sale. And I just happened to get a hold of a bunch of old Hans Holzer books. And yeah, it very much snowballed from there, from like curious teenager just kind of going to creepy places in the middle of the night. Co-founding my first team back in 2011. And yeah, very much just snowballed.
Yeah, definitely. It's easy for this to become a passion and something, because it's like the more that you do it and the more that you experience something, the more you want to experience something more. So it's very easy for it to snowball.
I'm compared to like a very serious form of addiction, because let's be honest, let's think about this for a second, guys. We have this thing that we appreciate. We get like just a little, like Dale's still riding a little bit of a high, right?
Yeah.
And we're just anticipating getting into some creepy, dark place in the middle of the night to talk to nothing.
Yeah.
We all have addiction. We all have like a personality disorder, just a little bit.
Absolutely.
But we're waiting for that 2 seconds of high that we get.
Right, just a
before
quick little like,
happens.
woo!
That little wait for more. Where's the next hit? Yeah.
Well said. Well said. And I love the parallels between the two of you. I mean, both at a young age, you're experiencing it at home. There's acceptance, which is a big deal. How many people just get shut down and no, right? Yeah. So you both had the support. And oh my God, your grandmother was scolding ghosts for God's sake, Chris. Yeah. Like, holy cow, and then both in your teenage years, you guys are out traipsing around in graveyards like lunatics, with all due respect, of course.
Of course.
We are freaks and weirdos here. And that's a compliment at this point, really. Yeah. And now here you are together, again, between the two, you 40 years experience. How insane is that? You've been doing it 3 years together. Talk about a paranormal power couple. I got to use the term. Why not? It suits you. So I think that's great, but so what I want to get at with you guys, something we ask all our guests, of course, and either one of you can start, you guys decide. But as far as your creepiest, freakiest, weirdest experience, please share that with us and the TPV Nation.
We let you go first on this one.
Oh. So, as far as the scariest personal experience, and I think some of this was just compounded by the fact that, like, I was still relatively green when a lot of this happened. It was within, like, maybe my first 2 years of, like, serious investigating as part of an established team. And at the time, we were taking a lot of house calls. And we actually got in contact with a business. It was a bar in the middle of nowhere, Illinois. Like, you're driving through and you're hearing like bing, 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 and like just middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Until you get to this like itty bitty town, and there's this enormous building, and turns out it used to be the town school. The town wasn't big enough to support a school, so they do what they do here in the Midwest, and they turned it into a bar. And hearing all sorts of like kind of what you would think of a typical like residual school haunting claim. You hear, footsteps going up and down the stairs in like weird set intervals, the sound of kids playing, random things like that. But whoever was in the basement, because there's always got to be a basement, whoever's down there is not the friendliest. And we're hearing claims of like hair being pulled, and at the time I had like hair down to here. People like trying to like do work in the far side of the basement, and like the lights getting killed, and their kind of final straw with all of it was a CO2 tank had exploded, and they'd taken it into Pepsi. They said there wasn't any like particular reason that should have happened, and they weren't totally sure whether or not to call it like paranormal related, but that was kind of their tipping point. They wanted to make sure basically they were safe. So, as for some reason the situation continues to occur with me, I end up by myself down in the basement of this place, and I'm trying to talk to this cantankerous old dude. And at the time, I'm armed with your standard camera, digital camera, and a audio recorder, and my video camera dies. So I'm a little anxious because I'm, kind of at this point familiar with the idea of things are getting drained. Something's going to probably happen pretty soon. Mm-hmm. And not a few seconds after I set down my camera onto the bottom of the steps because it's dead, it's not useful to me anymore, a milk cap just flies by my ear. And I'm getting a little anxious. I'm not running, but I am very aware of where the bottom of the stairs are. And if I need to get there quickly, I know my quickest route. And so I'm going around, I'm snapping pictures very anxiously, just, and that dies. So I go and I set that on the bottom of the stairs. And I'm just sitting there with my audio recorder, just full of anxiety, cortisol levels through the roof. And I hear there is this heating vent that comes up from the floor, goes further into the basement, or, as fate would have it, works its way closer to where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
And I try talking. Hey, was that you? And this banging continues. And the more I'm trying to talk to it, it's actually working its way up this heating vent and working its way towards me. And this is like the dead of June. So, I mean, the heat's obviously not kicking on. It's not causing that expansion contraction. And the fact it was replying to me in the same pattern repeatedly makes me think there was something like, hey, is that you? Hell yeah, it's me, dude. Get out of my basement. I would never accuse myself of being an overly I wouldn't say I'm not an unintelligent person, but my sense of self-preservation is not all there sometimes.
Oh yeah,
that's how
150%.
My sense of self-preservation almost does not exist depending on the situation. So I've decided, everything's getting wild. Let's go back to those CO2 tanks that exploded. And I'm making my way back, and I realize I don't have anything to document with. So I've got my dad and my brother, who I was investigating at the time with, on the walkie-talkie, hey, shit's banging down here. My cameras are dead. I need emotional support. I need new cameras. All they heard was I need a new camera because my brother, and God bless him, he's brave in a lot of real world situations. That stuff kind of spooked him at the time. He's at the top of the stairs. He just gotten this $200, $300 full spectrum camera from the top of the stairs. Just chucks it down to me. I fortunately catch it, and by that time I'm like, "Hey, what you?" Gone, absolutely gone. So I'm going back to this CO2 tank with the full spectrum camera. I'm taking, pictures back there, and it dies. And up to this point, I know nothing good can come from what's about to happen. And I was like, "Hey, you've got the energy for it. We're curious as to who's down here." And I'll tell you what, from what I gathered, you don't like that I'm down here. And for the second time in about a 2-year span at the time, I uttered a phrase that I regretted. I'll tell you what, I'll leave if you can do something to impress me.
There's a groan when those words come out of his mouth now.
Oh yeah, I don't care for too much anymore. So where I'm at by the CO2 tanks, I can see under the stairs, and there is a dolly, a 2-wheel push cart, in the middle of the basement, and lights are off, so I can't see too well, but eyes are adjusted, I see some stuff, and I see. And I'm like, no, it's my eyes playing with me. It's a low light situation. As soon as I've got myself convinced everything's okay, it's like someone took this thing by the handles and just flicked it to the ground. And
wow.
I didn't run, but I did walk quickly. And I'm going for a walkie-talkie at the same time, heading up the stairs, and my dad gets on before me. He's like, "What the hell did you just do?" No concern that maybe I was going to get danger. It's this is our first professional place, and Chris has destroyed something, which also terribly out of character. But yeah, that for me, anytime it gets real, I'm open to experiencing things on a spiritual aspect from my call it psychic abilities or whatever. But for some reason, you just add a next degree of real world fear when you realize it's something around you that can actually physically
move something.
So yeah, that I dove into the deep end early.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I will preface my experience with I understand how absolutely fantastical this sounds and made up and like it came straight out of a horror movie. I swear on my children's life, this is exactly how this happened, okay? We are at Malvern Manor in Western Iowa. And I like to do like a walkthrough of the location before we start doing a true investigation just to see what am I feeling, what am I sensing, what's going on? Is there anything I need to know for normal occurrences? So we can just keep that in mind. So as I'm walking past the hallway that leads down to the nurse's station, it's a really, really long hallway. I see the light change down at the end of the hallway. And I thought, well, maybe the window block had come off. Maybe there's trees blowing. I'm just going to stand here for a second, see what's causing that light change before I go, what it looks like before I go down and figure out what's causing that. Totally assumed a natural explanation. I still don't know what was doing that, by the way. So I stood up at the end of the hallway with my back against the wall because I don't like having my back open. And I'm watching down this hallway to the nurse's station. And I see your typical horror movie little old lady. She had to stand about 5 foot tall. She was in her long white nightgown. It looked like she'd had her little gray hair up in a bun, but it was down now because it was all scraggly. And she just leans out from the nurse's station and peeks down the hallway at me and gone, just out and in. I'm like, oh, that was super cool. So I stood there for, yeah, right? So I stand there for another second. Here she comes again, peeks around that corner at me. And I'm like, oh my God, she's doing this again. We're going to stand here and see how much she does this. Now, keep in mind, she's not saying anything as she's peeking out around the corner, but I can kind of feel that energy. At first, it was just, oh, there's someone there. The second time was like, well, there's still somebody there. Third time she does it, she's like, why is she there? And it just starts getting a little bit more progressive to like, you can go away now. You don't need to be in my hallway. So wow. She finally leans out and she's staring me down and she doesn't pop back in this time. She stays leaning out and we are making eye contact, just staring each other down. And I'm like, let's see where this goes, right? This sweet little old lady drops down on all fours and like horror movie crawls up this hallway at me. It is a long, long hallway and it took her, I cannot tell the story without goosebumps.
Right.
It took her seconds to clear this super long hallway. And I've always thought like that frozen in fear was just a statement.
Yeah.
That's a real thing. Your brain just does not kick in that you are in danger. It is time for you to move until she was spitting distance away from me and my brain kicked in. Move, you idiot. He may not have run. I did. I turned and I ran. So I'm like, this is crazy.
I want to run now.
It was terrifying. And like, I don't know why. We've been to Malvern a million times and I've never seen this figure before. I've never seen this figure since. I don't know why it did it that particular time. It's not like I was provoking or anything. I just was looking down the hallway, you know? So I don't know what caused it that particular time, but freaking terrifying. It was, yeah.
What a great story. You mentioned the energy.
Yeah.
Can you touch on that? You felt energy. Is that something when there's a I mean, going back obviously since you're a child, I mean, you have a higher sensitivity, that's what I'm looking for, than the average bear, if you will. So what are you feeling like when the energy, please?
So I am. We're not either one of huge fans of titles, but I most often get categorized into the psychic medium category. So when I walk into a location, I can kind of just feel like the vibration of that location, and the vibration is probably the best way I can describe it. There's when you walk into a room and there's a certain buzz to the air. I think a lot of times people don't pay enough attention to that and stop and think, okay, how does this buzz feel? Does it feel excited? Does it feel happy? Does it feel sad? Does it feel scared? You know, I think a lot of times if we just slow down and pay attention to what that feeling is, how that energy feels, we can get a better idea of what's really going on around each location. But then being the medium as well, I mean, sometimes I can just say, you know, hey, I feel you. Are you here? And yeah, I'm right here. You know, it's like, oh, okay. So.
And yeah, that is go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, and that is something we kind of is very much our approach to the paranormal. Where, my roots are very much in the technology, but between getting to know a weird person, having some of that weird apparently rub off. I'm also a shamanic practitioner, and with that, it kind of opened up to other areas that psychic experience, if you will, or even honestly just the human experience. I think we all have the ability to kind of feel out things like that. And we think there's a validity to the human experience of paranormal investigation, but my roots being very much in like the technology, there's obviously validity to, a class A intelligent reply on a EVP session, or an unmistakable figure in a photograph. So our approach to paranormal is very much trying to figure out where those two things meet.
And it's one of the things that we do focus on a lot, because people can go out with the equipment as much as they want, and we can say, we believe that this piece of equipment is doing this. We believe this piece of equipment is telling us that there's a spirit there. And the same side, if you're looking at it from an intuitive side, I can walk into a room and I can say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, there's somebody standing over there in that corner. They're female, they're this age, they're that. But I can't, there's nothing to back that up other than what I'm saying. But if I can say, there's somebody standing over there in the corner, it's female, this is what she's saying, and we get a piece of equipment captures a female voice saying something similar or in line with what I'm saying she's saying, we just validated both pieces of that equipment, both pieces of that data that we've collected. So we like to take that approach from both sides for sure.
No, I would agree with that, like 100%. Like, we as humans have that ability to sense things, but the equipment is just there to back up what we're feeling and hopefully validate a sound, a noise, a name. Because as a medium, a psychic, you get names, and then if somebody has a device and that same name comes across a device, it's like, how can you really deny that? It's being told to you through your abilities, as well as a device saying it, or an EVP even saying it. It's there. I think people rely on the equipment way too much. That you should use your God-given abilities, because we are built with all these things inside of us: the fear, the scared, the knowing, the vibe. Like, you can walk into a crowd of people, walk by somebody and go, for some reason, I don't know that person, but they're giving me a bad vibe.
Yeah.
And then the person beside them, wow, I feel good. It's like we were talking a little bit about like the energy and how you just walk by somebody and you just feel like compelled to talk to them because their energy just draws you in, and that is the most important. The equipment is great, it's beautiful, you like all the bells and whistles, things going ding throughout the night, but at the same time, no, I truly love investigating with what I have. Yeah, I can't back up what I'm feeling, but at the same time, it's my experience. It's not for me to validate what everybody else is feeling and try to convince everybody this is what I'm experiencing. Just a quick second. I just want to, before we move on, we've had some people jump in the room. We have our good buddy, Mr. Frank Koopa, jumping in there. We have Amy.
I'm wearing a shirt.
We have Cynthia. We have, Frank. We got Michael John promoting you today. But yeah, no, it is. So yeah, I love using me as my instrument, and I love the experiences that I have getting out of it. So Chris, you actually touched on the question I was just going to ask you about being a shamanic practitioner. For those out there might not know what that is, can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So, shamanic practitioner, honestly, is kind of just a blanket term for a lot of things. If you want to be super specific, a shaman is basically it came from, wherever you want a little bit. Every culture across the world in their infancy, like the beginning of man, had this person who was just, for whatever reason, closer to the spirit world. It's a very early Tibetan word. Shaman is what they would call them. Here in America, you would probably refer to them as a medicine man. Certain holy men in the Aborigines in Australia, but basically these people all they were basically the go-between for the world we live in and the spirit world. And I was lucky enough to make a really good friend in a man named Coyote Chris Sutton quite a few years ago. And he was a shamanic practitioner out of central Illinois. I practice the C.C. Weiss medicine traditions out of the Pacific Northwest. And we were doing an event together one evening, and he held a drum circle, and it's basically an introduction to the spirit, setting our intentions, just kind of getting on a similar wavelength to them. And I don't know how to say other than I basically got stuck to a tree for the rest of the evening. Kelly has called me in to help co-host this damn thing, and I was useless. I'm just snuggling up to this big old oak on this property we were on.
It's like a bear out there rubbing its back against a tree. I'm like, we got some things to do here.
And I guess Chris had seen something at the time and kind of took me under his wing, showed me the way.
With a lot of nudging. It took some persuasion because I don't know what.
Yeah, basically it's to get just super specific into the shamanic practice. So it's communicating through spirits or an altered state of consciousness. The ayahuasqueros in South America are going to obviously use like ayahuasca. Native cultures here in the States, peyote was on occasion used. I used to through like a deepened state of meditation, but that kind of introduction and connection to the spirit world is something that's been very different.
And it's one of those areas where we work really well and we complement each other, because for me, it was something that I learned from meeting Coyote as well. And then as Chris went through his path of becoming a shamanic practitioner as well, I learned far more about it as well. But like, I'm very much of a spiritual above type energy. That I don't know. When I think of energy, I think this way. When he thinks of energy, he's more like earth energy,
everything
spirit energy. Yeah. So, I mean, it's so funny that, and we've talked about this, we've been friends for years. I mean, we've been best friends for going on 10 years. So this isn't a new thing, us investigating and hanging out with each other, but like, we've always just complemented each other really well. And we're so very yin and yang, but yet we work so well together, I think, because of that, where if I can reach out to the spirit side of things, and it sounds so stupid to say it from the top side of things, but if it's an earth type of energy, then Chris is stepping in and he's taking it. And I don't know, it's just we know where our specialties lie, and we know when to step back and let the other person take it. So
okay.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And you know what? And really, in investigations, I would say to have different styles, different people that do different things, always make investigations a lot better. Because if you're investigating a room full of mediums, you're all going to do the same thing, right? There's no parallels. There's no interaction. There's where you were right. Like, Chris can take care of one thing, you take care of another thing, and that's what makes you guys so amazing. And that's why we love you guys.
It also can cause trouble, though. And we were just talking about this. We were at an investigation at Farrar, and they had a scrying place set up. And we were doing. He was sitting in front of the scrying. He had headphones on. He couldn't hear. He wasn't.
It was basically working an Estes method, but instead of like visual blindness, we put me in a separate room, and I was actually doing a scrying session.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting outside of where he's at and asking the questions, listening to him, and of course monitoring him, because if you're doing something like that, somebody should be watching you. But he's my Chris. I'm going to watch him and make sure he's okay. Yes. But it had kind of gotten a little quiet, and I thought, he's got that shamanic stuff going for him. Let's see what they have to say. And me not being as familiar with it as he was, I said, if there's any of the earth energies that want to come in and talk to him, go ahead. just a blanket statement of, anybody can come in and talk to him.
Things went pear-shaped very quickly.
It should.
Well, I guess I didn't have the time to go sideways, but yeah, there was definitely a shift in the energy in the room. We had a friend who was, I think he was just basically sitting with a pair of like sound amplifying headphones, like a set of Lucid headphones. And I obviously didn't hear this at the time. I caught most of it on the recording after. But he's like, guys, things are getting weird. I just heard a growl. It was very strange. And
nice.
The scrying session for me had been very like strange up till that point.
And the energy had shifted a little bit. I started feeling it get a little bit more tense, and I wasn't quite where I was ready to pull him out. But
basically, it wasn't in the room with me. Like I said, it'd been weird up to that point. Like I had one point where there's the mirror. There's me in the chair, and then there's a chair behind that, and I'm seeing things from the point of view of like the chair behind that, which was bizarre. But I get this image over my shoulder of this very long, slender face, and it's almost it's really difficult to describe sometimes, but just super long, slender face, ashen skin, red eyes. What people immediately take is like, oh, it's a demonic figure. But I just got this, hey, it's time to get out of this situation of vulnerability. And I was taking that as one of my helpers, just being like, okay, time to pull this out. But it like the amount of time it took us to describe the situation,
way longer than the whole thing.
It took a lot less time.
Yeah. Because
it was all very, very quick.
Because our friend was like, I just heard a growl. I'm feeling the energy. I'm about to get up and go get him. At the same time, whatever it is saying, hey, it's time to get out of there. So, it was all very, very quick. But, it's one of those examples of you just have to be cautious when you're out doing any sort of an investigation or any sort of communication, and make sure that you're putting those caveats in place of, we are only talking to energies that don't mean us any harm. And I dropped the ball because my brain, not being the shamanic practitioner, my brain goes, earth energy, it can't be bad. Well, maybe. Oops.
So now with it seems like the Estes method, I'm hearing about it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Countless times in a day, it seems anymore.
Oh, you don't hear about it on these EVP sessions anymore, which is wild.
Right. It's the thing to do. It's because everybody's getting fantastic results, not unlike what you're talking about. What are your thoughts on it as a whole? I mean, compare it to EVP, if you could.
I think there's just so much more validity to it, because when you're doing an EVP session, or if you're doing like an ITC session even, when you are asking a certain question, our brains are programmed to try to hear answers. So if we ask the question, what color is Dale's shirt? Everybody's going to be listening for the word black. Okay. And even if we get boo, and any one of those little sounds are going to go, oh, black, I heard it, because we're listening for it. Right. And so the nice part about the Estes method, for anybody who doesn't happen to know what the Estes method is, one person loses their senses, basically. So they lose their sense of hearing, they lose their sense of sight, and we really just try to take all that bias away from them. So they'll a lot of times have noise canceling headphones on, blindfolds on, sometimes be in a separate room. We've done it in separate buildings. But it takes that bias out of it, because then if I ask the question, what color is Dale's shirt? Chris can't hear the answer because he's got the headphones. He can't hear the question I asked. He's got the headphones on. So if he gets that answer of black, there's so much more validity to that answer truly coming through, because he didn't have the bias of knowing to listen for that answer.
Yeah, and I would say that's definitely the case. So it almost feels counterintuitive. And I think like a good paranormal investigator should be like having an emotionally tough time with like what they do, because there should be a very rational part of your brain anchored in what like the real world should be, but also like, what we do, there's obviously validity to that. But I have a hard time with like, this is the guy who talks to trees and thinks he sees and talks to ghosts. But I have a hard time with like some of the equipment. And like, so ITC is something I've always I've been open to it. I'm very much into the idea that like we should be grouping things together. So unless it's like something crazy, like lengthy and relevant, like I always take anything with a grain of salt unless it's like paired with something else. So getting like, an EMF spike at the same time as a 1 or 2 word answer out of a spirit box. We just had a really cool one last October where we were in a alleged tomb of Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormon Church.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we got the phrase, "I still remember Joseph," very clearly. So stuff like that. Oh yeah, nice. we just posted that recently because for some reason we didn't at the time.
But you can hear it so clear. I still remember Joseph. Wow.
Yeah, very interesting. So like stuff like that, it's hard to deny. But I think like going back to what Kelly said, just like the ability to remove that confirmation bias is one of the coolest things about the Estes method in my mind.
And we've had really, really good results with that. I mean, most often it's Chris that has the headphones on and I'm the one asking the questions. And I think that's a lot of it's just because I'm a little overprotective because I can watch him and feel what's going on around. But we've just had some phenomenal results. Like we were out at a location and we have this on a live. We were Facebook Live at the time. But there's one investigator that comes out to this location all the time that is really close to one of the little spirits that's out there. She just loves this guy. And he hadn't been in chat. He wasn't there with us. He hadn't been in chat. And he popped into chat. And I don't know that we'd even said hi to him before he gets through his listening. He says, "Dairy." And we're like, oh.
I'm thinking cow, which is for some reason, this is the hand gesture I go to when I think of cows.
Yeah, don't do that.
Oh God!
But
it must memory. I'm thinking dairy.
Yeah. So anyway, we're like, oh, dairy. Somebody must realize that Chad just popped into chat, and then a minute later, he's like, Chad, and so he takes the headphones off. He's like, "Is Chad here?" We're like, "No," but he just popped into to chat. We think it was Eglantine who realized that Chad had popped into chat and was just saying, hey, there's my buddy, So, but he had no way to know. We'd been doing that live session at that point for probably an hour. So for that to line up right there, it was phenomenal. That was just one of them. We've had some really cool experiences with that.
Yeah. I know I got to be firsthand experience of the Estes method last night, and I'll tell you, the experiment that happened last night, they actually did 3 different locations across the United States. This was one was in Palmyra, New York. The other one was in New Jersey at the White Hill Mansion, and the other one was in Connecticut at it's a new location at the Enfield, I believe it was called. So what they did is they actually set up a live chat, and so they had somebody at each location in front of the screen as each location asked a question of another location to see what the responses would be. It was absolutely phenomenal. I think it was a huge success to be able to be not even in the same building or the same area, but in a different state to create this. And the answers that they got was pretty bang on, and it was pretty intense. And I would say I've never done it myself. I look forward to doing it. It's kind of scary to me because I find that I'm very vulnerable when I'm under. And like I said, you can't control what comes through or stuff like that. The reason why I say that is because I believe there was an entity last night that was out to try to attack my son, because the first 2 words he heard once he got the blindfold on and the SB7 going, it told him Colby Run, which is my son's name, and it freaked him out. And I was like, I would have took the headphones off, saying, "No, I'm done."
Yeah,
but we believe that because the energy that was in that house was not anywhere close to being anything negative. So we believe that it was coming in from another location that one of the other investigations were at, because one of the other locations does have some pretty negative stuff. But so, it's that part in itself was fascinating, how it came through and to a different location and how fast they can or how they can bring themselves to a different location.
So is there like a tie between those locations at all, or is it just kind of like we're going to try here, here, and here? And obviously, spirits aren't like locked down in any particular location; they can come and go. But
it was all done live, all at the same time. All 3 locations were live at the same time. So yeah, they so that this way here. So they could see what the responses are. So what they did is they had a particular order. Each location was not to ask a question of their location, but to a location other than their own.
Right.
Gotcha.
So so this way here, it would kind of, the response at the person at the location that was being asked, depending on their response, would answer the question from a totally different location.
Right.
Gotcha.
So
but sorry, I guess I didn't ask the question.
Like historically,
is there like some sort of tie between the locations, or is it
absolutely not? They're all 3 different types of locations.
Yeah.
The Palmyra location, it's more like just an old building that was once was many things. It was a hotel. It was a general store. It was a library. Where White Hill Mansion, I'm not quite sure, but each location has nothing to do with the other location. So it was 3 separate types of locations, 3 different backgrounds and everything. Just kind of doing this experiment to see if it would actually work. And I think it was quite successful in being able to pull for them to even try to pull it off. But it brought a whole new different level to realizing like just how great the energy, the spirits, whatever you want to call them, can answer from any location.
Yeah. And it may not have even been something that was negative, like threatening him. It might have been something friendly that was understanding that he was new to this. I believe you said earlier that, this was one of his first investigations. It might have been something that's like, oh, he's not used to doing this. We're going to protect him. Maybe you should not be doing, and so I think sometimes there is that, and I don't know, I wasn't there, so I can't say one way or the other, but it may have been something not friendly saying, hey, run, I'm going to try to scare you. But it also might have been somebody saying, hey, maybe you're not ready for this. You should run. Run seems like a weird word, but I don't know. That's where the energy can come into things, though, is how did it feel to him? Did he feel threatened, or did he feel like it was something trying to make him?
He said it was a very, very dark, scary voice.
Yeah.
Because he was picking up on a woman's voice.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was picking, and it was almost the same one we were getting up on the spirit box on the upper level of this house, too. Like we would get a female voice come in, but then this really dark, dominant voice. And we think, because they were trying to communicate with the female, but every time she spoke, this male would just jump in there and kind of cut her off. So it was like very dark, very heavy. Kind of, I don't want to use the demonic term because I don't believe it was that scary, but just an alpha male showing his dominance, right? Because when you think of the time period, because this is what we are investigating places that are time period. Now, it's not like the modern day where men and women are equal. Back then, men were dominant. Women didn't talk unless they were told to, and that was just the kind of the way that it was. It's sad to think that this is the way the world was, but back then it kind of pushed it like that. So that's what I think this situation was a male tried to control the female still in the afterlife.
We had a spirit like that kind of this last weekend at Monroe. That guy that was down in the basement with us, he wasn't, it wasn't a demon. I know the Monroe house is out there and some people will call it the Monroe demon house. And this guy didn't have good energy. Don't get me wrong. He wasn't pleasant by any means, but he very much wanted to be that alpha male. He wanted to scare people, and he He loved the fact that when Chris was in that crawl hole, that he knew he could trap him in there, that he knew he could do something because Chris was stuck in that crawl hole, and he knew I knew it. And he loved that, you know, and it's like, there's that energy can be.
That demon word's a tough word.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because first of all, theologically, you have to believe in such a thing. And we do a lot of lectures, and I think it all comes down to very kind of a cool visual representation we get to see sometimes. So like it be in the front of the room, okay, guys, so we're going to talk about demons for a second, and you hear everybody's asshole just go.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, I want you to think of like what a demon is for a second. Just work with me here. We're talking about like a being of pure benevolence, absolute evil, whose only purpose in this reality is to break you down emotionally, mentally, spiritually, yada, yada, yada. Who all has experienced something like that? Generally speaking, you don't see a single hand. And then I'll ask the question, okay, who in their day-to-day life has run into an asshole or two? And it's just a bunch of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, you know, that you have to keep that in mind, is like, you're going to run into those spirits, and they don't necessarily change your spots. If they believe women were supposed to not speak unless spoken to, that's how they're still going to be most likely. And, or
Right.
if they like bullying people, that's how they're still going to be most likely.
I mean, they weren't people. They're still people. They just don't have the meat suit anymore.
Right. But on the same side of that, you can have really nice people who are just hanging around because they want to, and they just want to interact with people. And as long as you treat them with respect, you're going to get that respect back. So, yeah.
On your bucket list, got to ask again, you know, we have some of these, they're very spot on questions, but it's what we want to know. I mean, what everybody wants to know, of course. And I mean, out of any place on the planet the two of you could go to together, where would you love to go investigate? That's it. That's all. Money's no object, et cetera, et cetera. You're there. Where is it?
Edinburgh vaults.
Yeah, I was say the vaults in Edinburgh, Scotland, are definitely up there. I don't know. I have a tough one with this. So like Waverly Hill Sanatorium had been my Everest for 15 years, and we went there a couple years back. And I've just been this thing that's been like floating listlessly. Like I don't know what my next big adventure is going to be, because like I got to do it. I got to go to Waverly Hill Sanatorium for the night, and it was great. And I was running around. I was cheesing like an idiot the whole time.
Yeah.
But now I don't totally know, because like I have days where I'm like, oh, Alcatraz would be awesome.
Trans-Allegheny. We've been there. We've had the ability to like mini investigate, because our tour guide was amazing. But I want to go back and like actually
do an
investigate.
overnight.
But the vaults, I see, and I'm going to have to hopefully do what you're doing now after next year, because we're going to get in those vaults. We're going to do it. The plan is Scotland for the honeymoon. So
yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah.
So you're not married yet, or you are married?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
What's the date?
October 12th of next year. So
Awesome. Okay. Right on.
Absolutely. Like I said, this has been a very interesting, and I'm sad that like, where did this hour go? You guys, we definitely have to talk you back, because there is so much more we have to like. Chris, I like how you take it from the scientific side of things, as well as using your gifts. Kelly, like I said, you guys definitely make as Michael John says, the definite paranormal power couple, because you guys just complement each other so well. I just want to say thank you for taking your time coming on to the show. We look forward to seeing you guys in a couple weeks up at the Maya Paracon. That's right, folks. If you're not at the Maya Paracon, you want to meet these people. And like I said, they are very amazing and loving people. You'll have a great time hanging out with Chris and Kelly. So we look forward to seeing you guys
I
up
was
at
going to say he'll probably be in a kilt at least one of those days. We get a lot of demands from the MI Paracon for him to be in a kilt. One gal in specific, I think she might burst into tears if he wasn't in a kilt one day.
I think there might be a couple.
Yeah. Like we got an email last year prior to MI Paracon saying, "Are you going to wear your kilt?" It's like, wow, okay.
It's a thing, man.
See,
I love
Chris,
it.
I would be charging big money if I were you to have your picture taken in that kilt with these people, because that might just pay for your wedding next year.
5-minute story time. We went to New Orleans on a trip, and we were on Bourbon Street, and it was late. And let's just say we were in really good moods. And Chris got down to wearing his kilt and a smile. I missed a golden opportunity. I could have made so much money. But, yeah, next time.
That's a lot of beads.
It was, yeah.
Oh, I went down to Mardi Gras like a few years prior, and I don't know if winning Mardi Gras is a thing, but there's a picture of me somewhere on the internet with just like a lines made of beads, like beads up to my ears.
Did you say winning Mardi Gras?
Winning Mardi Gras, yeah. Like I thought I was winning. Like I had all of the beads. It was up to my ears. Like I was just coated in lead-based paint and probably urine.
Oh God!
It was the time of my life.
That sounds like a whole new different show.
Yeah,
I can't believe an hour's gone by here. I want to say thank you so much to. Wait. One last question. I'm sorry. I apologize. If the TPV Nation out there, anybody watching now, watching the replay, want to reach out to the two of you for help, for questions, anything like that, where are you going to be next, all that sort of stuff, how can they reach out to you? What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, so geographically, the next spot you're going to be able to find us is at the MI Paracon up in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. After that,
Fort
calendar. Fort Wayne, Indiana. We'll be at the Fort Wayne Paranormal Convention.
And
then after that, we got a couple of events coming up. We're hosting a public investigation at a place called Spook Cave in Northeast Iowa. We're basically be doing an investigation 120 feet underground in a boat in a flooded cave.
It's amazing.
It is.
Sounds like a bad dream.
Oh,
it's amazing.
The coolest location.
The best water EVPs out there. He used to tell me that he'd hear voices in the back of the cave all the time. I'm like, oh, you hear a word here and there? It's like full-blown conversations constantly. It's the coolest thing.
And then that leads like nice little segue into on the online platforms. You can get those tickets at travelersmoonpara.com, or you can find us anywhere online at Travelers Moon Para is usually the handle because regular Travelers Moon's been taken. So Facebook's kind of where we do a lot of our stuff. We do a lot of live streams from Facebook as well as TikTok. And all that's at Travelers Moon Para.
Thank you so much for all that info. Again, thank you. As Dale said, thank you so much for taking the time tonight. Chris Nielson, Kelly McCarville, together 40 years plus experience, ladies and gentlemen, the paranormal power couple, Travelers Moon Paranormal. Thank you so much, of course. And thank you so much, of course, to the TPV Nation, everybody tuning in now, tuning in, watching the replay later. We don't get to do what we do, and that's what we love. Of course, Dale and myself, Windsor, Ontario's own, the Paranormal Voice. We will see you all on the other side. But in the meantime, and in between time, happy hauntings.
Happy hauntings.
Thank
happy
you,
hauntings.
Guys.